Welcome to the city, Mastermind City. Hi, I'm Faye Chappell.
And I'm Stacy Maynard. Join us for a vibrant, inspiring, and uplifting talk as we focus on how you can make a lasting impact on a global scale. Because the truth is, we're here because we want you to win.
So are you ready to surround yourself with success? Because you're in the right place. Welcome to the city.
Welcome to my house.
And I was going to sing the Star Wars theme. So Stacy was making me a coffee and she's looking for mugs. And what are you doing? She goes, well, I don't want to give you a Star Wars mug. I'm like, yeah, I want the Star Wars mug.
So she's got the cool Star Wars mug.
That's cool.
So she's in my house.
I love Star Wars.
Because
I have nowhere else to go.
You are moved out.
We're moved out of the house. I still have the place in Toronto. So just so you guys know, because some of you are like, don't you live in Toronto? I do. But like the house that I had to pack up of 100 years of worth of stuff is done. And then I realized today I had nowhere really to do live because I didn't have it set up at the condo. And so I'm here.
Come over. Yeah. So the ongoing saga of the move is over.
It's over.
And if you're done, you literally...
I feel so much better, even though I have other places, right? It's just like, I moved before a long time ago, but you have to get rid of all the old stuff in the old house. So, and I've been avoiding it for 2 years.
But one of the things that we were just talking about, which is interesting. So when you were getting ready to move, you fix things or you replace things like that aren't working. You like soap dispensers. I was just talking about a tap that I have and you get used a lock. You were talking about the lock. Like you get used to how things are, even if it's not great.
Right.
It just becomes
normal and you forget.
It becomes normal, which is kind of weird. Like you're fiddling with the key for what did you say? 5 years.
This is what I did. I'd have to slam the key into the lock to turn it. And it would hurt my hand all the time. And then I realized, well, I can't sell the house like that. And so my, what I call my son-in-law, he's not son-in-law yet, but he kind of is. I said, can you replace this? And he goes, yeah. And then he went to Home Depot, got one and replaced it in 20 minutes. And I'm like, so I've been slamming my hand for 5 years. And it's kind of like, it's a good thing to think about just for business too, right? Like sometimes you just forget when you're doing stuff that you can just change it.
Well, you get, I don't want to use the word lazy. You just get, it's almost like, you get used to it. It becomes your new normal.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. So,
yeah. So today was it was great because today was the first day I didn't have to get up and clean anything or move anything. And if I couldn't have done it without Stacy, honestly, like it was so much work. And
she had a lot of stuff.
First morning that I woke up and I'm like, okay, I actually can get back to normal, which is good because we start the TikTok challenge today.
Yes.
And, I'm like, okay, well, I actually have to do things today. So good news is.
But it's interesting. It almost feels like a weight's been lifted.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a big weight because it's a big house. And she literally sent me a text and she said, that's a wrap. Like, and it was done. So,
and I did have the luxury. So just so you guys know, I had the luxury of having other places. Right.
Right.
So, we have the place up north and we have the condo in Toronto. So it wasn't like, I feel bad for people that are taking a truck and moving from everything, the people that wait and have to unload everything. So the only advice I could say is if you are moving, if you can bridge and be able to move to a new place for, you have a week or two to move in, give you that luxury. Cause you have to leave your place nice. So you have to clean it and do a lot of stuff, so it's not for the faint of heart.
Well, I remember when we moved here, we did do the bridge. We had a week and I just felt like it's all the little things, right? Like even if you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're doing, it's all the little things. So it's like, I remember moving little things, then we did all the big stuff, but then I still had the rest of the little things and to clean. And I was like, I can't imagine doing this all in one day. I think I probably would have lost my mind.
So if you're like, whatever room you're sitting in now, take a look around and then look at all the little things. And if you're moving, you'd be like, what am I going to do with all this stuff? Because you bought something for that spot. Even in your office, you have a million things. Would it work in your new space? Do you really need it? Like, why did you buy this? Sometimes I look at things and I'm like, why did I buy this ugly thing? Right? I don't even like it. Yeah. And you don't know what to do with it. Right? Because you're like, I can't throw it out because it's still nice. Somebody will like it, but I don't really want it. Yeah. And right now during COVID, the the interesting part is the donation centers aren't taking everything.
Yeah, so it's more difficult to donate. It was a lot easier a couple of years ago, obviously. But I think even more importantly than that is look around your house and what can you update? So again, what would you fix if you were going to move? And can you fix it now so that you can actually enjoy it? And that's a conversation that I know I've been having here in my house after going through what she's been going through. And I'm like, yeah, how can what do I need to fix? What do I need to update? That I'm just looking at and going, I can deal with it, but why should I?
Yeah, why shouldn't you?
Like, why shouldn't I go get a new tap for my sink? Why shouldn't I fix this particular flooring or whatever?
Yeah.
You know, and actually enjoy it myself. And then when I go to move, I don't have all of those little things to fix. So
this for me in particular, it's, office space. Like if you have a home office, like most of us do now. If you don't like your room, you should just take one day off of your time and paint it or do something that makes you feel good in that room, because then it seems like less work, right?
So yesterday I get a text from a client, and we've been Zooming. We've never been in person. So he sends me a note, and I'm always wearing a scarf, right? Like I'm always wearing something different because typically I'm wearing like a tank top. And so, to go on Zoom or something, we always need to grab our first thing, like a jacket. So I always have a couple of things in the room here. So I just grab a scarf, and he's like, oh, this is the scarf you're wearing today. So I thought that was really funny. So yesterday we got on a quick Zoom call, and he goes, oh, you're not wearing a scarf. But one thing he noticed, which I didn't realize, he goes, I need to buy you a necklace. And I'm like, what? He goes, you never wear necklaces. And I'm like,
kind of quiet.
Because you never wear necklaces. And I just realized I have a ton.
So do I.
You don't need to buy them for me. I'm good. But it doesn't occur to me.
Yeah.
I think about putting on a jacket to make myself look a little bit more professional for a call. I think about putting on a scarf so you don't just see a basic tank top. But I don't think about putting on jewelry right now. And I haven't worn, I have bracelets, I have necklaces, I have other earrings. I don't think I've changed jewelry.
No.
For 2 years almost.
No, and I go through trends, or not trends. I go through phases. I just haven't it's been bothering me to have a necklace. I think necklaces, you always thought about them when you were dressing to go out.
Yeah, exactly.
But when you're in, you don't really think about it much. And I wore malas for ever, because when I owned the yoga studio, and those are comfortable because they don't feel like jewelry. But yeah, I do too. I don't know where all the jewelry is now, but
but it never occurs to me because I just feel like, because then what I'm going to do is put on the necklace, go on the call, and then I'll probably take the necklace off.
Yeah, because they're not that comfortable.
They're really not. And especially, and it was really funny. So then he started to sort of talk to himself, and he's like, well, what necklace would I buy you? And he goes, and you don't and then he starts analyzing my personality, which I thought was really cool. And he goes, well, you need to get something that's defined. He goes, but not chunky. You don't seem like that big necklace, chunky kind of person. But if it's too simple, I feel like it's going to get lost, but I can't overpower, and I don't want to compete with your red lipstick. And so I just thought this was such an interesting conversation with somebody that doesn't know me.
Yeah.
Right. It was just kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So good for him. So that makes the conversation more fun. So
that's nice.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of him, they are a newer client. I've actually been dealing with them since May. They wanted to launch a podcast, so they started talking to me in the spring. And I've always said, do it right, do it later.
Right.
Never rush things, right? We talk about that a lot. We could have done a lot of things. We could launch different things at different times. When does it make sense? It's better to do it later and do it right, because you miss that opportunity.
Yeah. So
they were going to launch in September. They just launched today.
That's okay.
And they've already launched into the charts.
Wow.
Which is amazing. I've never had that happen before. So usually the next day,
what's the podcast
after
about?
the launch, it's about being single.
Nice.
And it's actually really interesting because it's part of the conversation that not a lot of people are having. We talk about maybe what it's like to be divorced. I have a client who does a divorce-based podcast, and she talks about all the sort of the legal aspects of divorce and stuff like that. But all of the world in general is focused around couples.
Yeah.
So for one of their episodes, they have a financial person and how you can manage your finances as a single person. I remember talking to my friend who's single, she went to the bank, and it's it shouldn't be complicated to have, she goes, well, who's your spouse or your partner or whatever? And she's like, I'm on my own and on purpose.
Right.
It's okay to be single on purpose, not because you're divorced or widowed or whatever the case may be. And it's interesting because the financial person that they were talking to was like, the world is just not set up. And it's like, how do you go through this and different philosophies? So it's actually I find it quite interesting.
A long time ago when my husband had gotten sick, what you realize is, people invite you as a couple. They, to dinners, to like specials are always for couples. And I would be like, but, I can't do that.
Right.
So it would really, you notice it when you're in that thing, but when you're a couple, you don't, right? So when you're not, it's very annoying to see all this couple crap, right? And it's very annoying. So I, completely understand, but it was kind of like, yeah, like people don't want to invite you if you're not with a couple to any parties, right? You know what I mean? Like they're having, a
dinner party, right? Or whatever.
They're all couples. And there was one, I can't remember. There was a function. There was a networking event back a long time ago, but it was for couples. And it was a business networking event. You're supposed to bring your spouse.
Yeah, it was like a holiday
And I was really offended by that.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the person who, do you remember that? The person who organized it, I'm not going to say the name of your networking event, but shame on you. Because the person who organized it only looked at their perspective. They only saw themselves as a couple, and therefore they thought, I think it was a women's group, and they wanted you to bring your spouse. Sorry, calling you out. Incredibly rude to think that everyone has a spouse, that everyone has a well spouse, that they have a spouse of the opposite sex. You know what I mean? It was just so, it's like now people would go, no way, because we're far more educated. That wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't that long ago.
But I just was like, it didn't sit well with me at the time, because I started realizing all the stuff that's not cool.
This is a very generic three buckets. So I apologize, but you've got the divorced, right? You're in this specific category. And then I have a friend who's a widow. Mm-hmm. So she feels like that's her identity, right? Like I'm a widow. I was married. My spouse died. I'm now a widow. But without those two, you also get into single. Right? And single by choice is a very difficult conversation to have with somebody, because all of a sudden you're like, no, I don't have are you divorced? No. Are you in a relationship? No.
Why not?
Are you widowed? No. Like all of a sudden there's something wrong with you. Yeah. And there's not. So you know what? Kudos to them for bringing light to the conversation.
So should give them a plug. What's
their podcast is called Being Single and Happy.
Awesome.
And they're just launching today. And their first episodes, I've just been really fascinated by the conversations they're having, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
Again, all the different conversations we're having about relationship statuses, who you identify and how you identify. I just think it's so interesting, the things that are coming to light, and not typical.
I think just everything now, people aren't like, they're not set. I think most people that are progressive, aren't set in their, they don't normally jump to a conclusion if they don't understand the situation, right? You know what I mean? Like now it's like, okay, so there's all kinds of relationships, there's all kinds of things going on in the world, and it's okay. It's okay. It doesn't have to be the mom and dad and 2.5 kids. You know what I mean? Like the 2 kids.
I just wondered about those 0.5 kids.
Well, that's the dog. That's but like it was, and it doesn't have to be, suburbia and all that stuff. So things have changed, which is really nice, because, again, when I got married very young, I was only 24. So when I got married, it was like, go buy a house in suburbia and have a couple of kids. And, I'm the opposite with my kids, even though they don't listen to me. I'm like, go get a condo in downtown, like have your kids grow up urban and like, be in a vibrant city. Like if I did it over again, that's what I would do. Now, that's not saying that, your spouse is going to agree with you. That's what I would see. And that there's nothing wrong with that, because, that whole, I'm going to say American dream, because that's really what it was with the suburbs, and that isn't really all that it's cracked up to be, because like I lived in the suburbs for a long time. And I finally realized that if I have to fight traffic in the suburbs, like I don't want to live. If I'm in downtown, I'm willing to fight traffic. But to fight traffic to be in the suburbs just makes no sense to me. So for those of you who are in the suburbs right now and going, she's right, you can thank me.
Well, I just think it's really interesting that people are pushing limits on, let's just say, traditions. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, you have people showcasing that, you know what, the younger generation does want to embrace all the different traditions of our culture, all the different traditions that we've done all over years. But then you have the others who are kind of pushing back a little bit on those cultures and all those, even things like, you know, if I have a child, why is that child taking the last name of the male? Yeah. Why can't the child take the last name of the female? Yeah. And why is why am I changing my name to his? Why isn't he changing? So I'm actually like, I'm really excited about the fact that we are pushing back on some of these old ways and welcome new. Like there's no rules anymore. And that's kind of cool.
It's kind of like, so for me, it's like one that bothers me a lot is weddings. I
just in general,
I just think they're like overblown and stupid. Like, I mean,
sorry to the entire wedding industry.
Yeah, sorry, but why spend $1 gazillion on this one day when you could take all that money and go put a down payment on a place to live and stuff? It doesn't
take a really nice vacation.
Yeah.
Like a really nice,
And I think what you're seeing now is people are, my experience is different. And you're right. Sorry, the wedding planners that are listening to it. You can plan it differently.
Yeah.
But like, why? Like, I think people are going, okay, let me have a little simpler wedding with people that I actually know and like and, you know, associate with.
Yeah.
And we'll do it, you know, in a simpler, more organic kind of way than, and spend the money differently than doing this huge, like, you think about it now, like, I still remember, because I literally had a wedding. I wanted to make my mom happy. That was really it. But I remember being in the big white poofy dress and feeling like an idiot. And I was 24, but I was like, this is not me. I am not a white poofy dress girl.
Right? To get to see some of those pictures. Funny, the move. I never saw any of those pictures. I had to find those.
So it's just neat that now people are going, like kids are going, you know, I'm going to have a, you know, like I keep trying to talk my daughter into having a forest wedding.
Well, it's interesting because so Warren's niece, she's doing a sort of a forest wedding, sort of on a farm where her fiance lives a little bit further away. And then what she's doing, which I think is really cool. So she's doing a really super simple actual ceremony.
Yeah.
And then she's having 4 different parties.
Nice.
Small parties. Because she goes, I don't want to be in a situation where I'm in a room with X amount of people and I don't even see half of them or talk to them. So she's like, I'm going to do close family.
That's great.
Then I'm going to do ones with like my close friends and just do like sort of mini celebrations. And I'm like, well, that's actually really smart because you actually get to enjoy the people that are there. And it extends the whole celebration a little bit longer. And then she's going to take the money that she would have spent on this big wedding and her fiance are going to do a really cool trip, which I think is awesome.
Absolutely. And I think part of it is the reason people are getting simpler is because religion is not that important.
Yeah,
as
absolutely.
It was. And for those, and people now are everyone's kind of mixed, right? Like everyone's like, you're not generally marrying in your religious faith, whatever it is. I'm being
sometimes you are. Sometimes you do.
I'm being a generalist here.
Yeah.
So
and those are the ones that are embracing the culture.
Absolutely.
And the traditions and all of that.
But for those of you that are mixing, it's kind of like, oh, well, we can't really have it. You know, we can't have it the Catholic and the Buddhist church. So we're going to, you know, just have a generic, you know,
wedding
ceremony.
On the beach.
Yeah. So which is kind of interesting to me. Like, I like that idea. But
no, but it's true. It's true. And the joy of, again, we don't have any of those typical male, female weddings. We have same sex. We have different people who are identifying as different genders and all there's just everything. And that's kind of fun. I love the creativity.
I do too. And it's such a nice, exciting time to be living in, even though you're living through COVID. But I think part of the whole point of the weddings changing was because people who had all these plans to get big weddings couldn't.
True.
And so they still got married, right? In a little ceremony by themselves, maybe online.
That happens too.
And, but it's not less than, you know, I mean, the truth is they probably are going to outlast the people that spent like $1 gazillion on a wedding because their focus was on the wedding and not on the relationship. Oops.
That's true.
Zing.
Boom, mic drop. It's true.
Sorry, but it's true. It's kind of like things like you're caught up in that moment, right? Like, so all they have is blinders on the wedding. They don't really see anything else. And it's an interesting when your perception is there. I read an article, if you haven't talked to friends for a while, you think they're mad at you. And that's right. And so the perception is you haven't talked, so they must be mad at you. When that's like not and I get that a lot because I've been so busy and people think that like I've dropped them or mad at them or whatever. And that's not true, but it's just your perception of it. Like you have to realize that, not everyone's thinking the same thing, right?
Or sometimes, and this happened to me, do you ever respond to texts in your head?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, me? I've done that.
Me too.
So I responded, or I will. So actually the other day, what I did is I responded, right? Typed out my response, but I didn't hit send.
Right.
And I thought I did.
So I do that all the time.
So then I get the response back. Did I offend you by my text? And I got that. And I'm like, what is she talking about? Yeah. Like I responded. I thought it was a pretty good response. Yeah. Like, I don't know what she's talking about. So I went back to the text and then I took a screenshot and I sent it to her and I went, oh, because I didn't press send.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, you got to be careful about that.
And then the other one, I thought I'd responded because I crafted the response in my head. So then I think I'm done. And then goes, oh, did you get my last message? I'm like, I got my last message. I responded to text in my head. See, and Brenda's the same way. I do that all the time. I respond to text in my head. See, it's a thing.
Yeah, it is a thing.
So
if you notice when anytime Stacy talks about texting, she does this.
Yeah.
So I bet you in the middle of the night, she's responding, sleeping and responding to people.
So if you text me, I don't respond. It's possible that I have responded in my head,
and she still likes you,
or I've typed it and I just didn't press send.
Yeah, but she still likes you.
I still like
still her friend. Like it is true. Like you have to step back and go. People have lots of busy lives, and if they haven't responded to you in 10 seconds, it doesn't mean anything. Back in the old days with the wagon wheels, they used to write letters, and it would take months. To get a response.
She found letters I showed my kids. I was like, this is a letter from my friend in grade 5.
Yeah. In cursive. And they're like, what does it say?
Well, in grade 5, I think they're still printing, but they're like, why do you have a piece of paper? Like if your friend's writing on it, this doesn't make sense in my brain.
Well,
it was funny.
Well, so we were on with our lawyer the other day on a Zoom call. And my daughter was on the call trying to help interpret on the other side. And so our lawyer says to her, because he knows his son and her boyfriend are friends.
Oh, okay.
And so he's like, do you have a piece of paper and pencil? And she's like, no, I can get one. And he goes, because you can take this number down and give it to him to call him. And she's like, well, I'll just put it on my phone. Exactly. And it was like such a difference in generations because of course they don't have a piece of paper and pencil, but they never not have their phone.
Exactly. It's true. I will die. I'll never use my phone. My son has lost his keys. He's lost his wallet, and he has never lost his phone. It's true.
It's true. If you lost your phone, like even when I went to the store the other day, she said, our tap's not working. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, you mean I have to take a card out of my wallet? I said, I don't even know if I remember the pin
for the card.
I haven't used it in so long.
But that's the thing. Like it's funny that you say that because I was talking to my son and I said, well, pretty soon, like your driver's license is going to be on your phone, your health card's going to be on your phone, all that. What happens if tap goes down? And because you're not going to be carrying cards pretty soon.
No.
Like this is going to be literally everything you need. Probably going to be able to start a car, which I think you probably already can.
You can, yeah.
With a phone.
Yeah, I mean.
Which is crazy.
I love it, but you're right. You got to be charged.
Yes.
Right? And that's a problem because sometimes you ever go in a grocery store and you can see your red bar on your phone and you're like, please make it until I check out.
Well, it's kind of like the concert, right? Like we went to see Genesis last week and the tickets are on your phone only, right? So not only do you need to show your vaccine passport, you have to show your ID, but you have to show your ticket, and your ticket it's mobile ticketing only.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure your phone is
charged. True.
You're not getting into the concert.
Hey, so you didn't talk about it. How was the concert?
It was very good.
Yeah.
It was very good. Went to see Genesis, and it was interesting because of the time frame of sort of their bigger hits, right? Their bigger hits are more like sort of that late 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Whereas, I do know a lot of sort of Phil Collins more from like the mid 80s and late 80s. But my husband's a little bit older than me, not by much, but it was just enough that he was very, like, he loved sort of that late 70s, early 80s, and he loved it. And I loved it too. But I will admit there's songs that I thought I knew. But again, when you're in concert, if I listen to them on the radio, I know them. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, that is right. Because Phil is getting a little bit older. Like the rest of us. He was old when I was young. Yeah. You know, but he's only 70.
Yeah, but he had a stroke or something.
I think so. Yeah. So he had to use a cane to get onto the stage. He was sitting the whole time. And then of course he needed a cane to walk.
But you know, what's interesting about those guys is like, you know, he's talented when, even though he's, you know, had health issues, he can still like sing like
and he was great. He was great. And you know what? He was engaging from the chair.
Right.
Which means, and he had the whole crowd into exactly what he was doing, which means you don't have to run all over the stage and be all crazy. And that's not your gig. He sat in a chair and was equally as engaging. Yeah. So good for him. Yeah. He did a great job.
Yeah. So, I mean, but that's the difference. You can tell if somebody's really talented because a lot of the younger, you know, singers that come out who have a lot of auto tune and stuff in the background. And when you see them, when you hear the record, it's awesome. And when you see them in person, they don't sound good at all.
Right.
Because they just,
it's all super edited and stuff like that. But yeah, his voice wasn't the same, but he still sounded amazing. So
yeah, that's cool.
So our TikTok challenge kicks off today. So before we sign off, I just want to know, what is your favorite thing about TikTok?
My favorite thing is that, so when I'm scrolling, like I scroll at night, when I'm scrolling, I'm amazed at how many things I learn.
Right. Yeah, like it's true.
Random stuff that probably you don't really need to know. But like, so you learn so much in such a short time, like this time, like, you know, and now like we find YouTube too long. Like you want to get an answer. I'm like, oh, I'll just check TikTok. Somebody probably can provide it to me in like about a tutorial
or whatever.
Yeah. What about you?
Probably the feeds. And I was just saying this the other day, when I turn my TikTok, when I open the app, because a lot of times what I do is I'll watch like lip synced comedy acts and it's just that one clip, but they're funny. So I want to laugh. I want to brighten my day. I want to have, you know, something that just changes. If I'm stressed or whatever, I open TikTok and I just get a comedy skit. Yeah. And it just makes me laugh. And I'm like, oh, and I remember like the original and when they're up on stage or whatever. And I just laugh. So for me, that I enjoy that. I do like some of the dancing, but I do like the tutorials. And it's just, and I also think I like the creativity. Like how people are using it is so amazing and creative and interesting. But did you know, so one of the stats that I shared for day one, which is today. So one of the stats that people will learn is that they reach the 1 billion downloads for their app quicker than any other social media app.
And it is, I will say it is definitely the most addictive of all the social media feeds because you don't feel, well, there are people that are obviously pushing stupid stuff that are trying to do for business, but it's addictive because it's interesting. Yeah. Right. And and it's true. Like I said, tutorials and learning, but I mean, tutorials and learning can be just some stupid little hack that you learn that you're like, holy crap, in 10 seconds, my life changed on how to, you know, peel something or that, because it's just stupid little things that you're like, that's brilliant.
Like the best one that I learned, your dishwasher, you open your dishwasher to unload the clean dishes and the plastic is wet. Well, I learned on TikTok, you just take a tea towel and you put it over the door and close it for 10 minutes and it dries. And I was like, how? And I did it and it worked. I was like, to me? Yeah. That was a lifesaver. Yeah. Like stupidest little life hacks.
Stupid hacks. But I learned a lot about
so much
about how to chalk paint and how to change furniture, just little tiny things that you're like, holy crap. So there was these two dressers that were sitting in my garage and they were going to just be gone out in the garbage, right? And I looked at them like, well, because what I learned on TikTok, I kept them because they're really good quality. And I thought, because of the hacks I learned, I can make these look fabulous. And so I kept them. So it's really fun. And the fact is that we're starting this TikTok challenge, we're starting fresh. So we didn't want to say we've got 1 million followers and like, this is what you should do. Because that's what everyone does. And that's kind of not cool because it's a little bit harder because you can't really relate. Yeah. So we're starting with 0 followers. Well, we have 2 now.
Me and you.
Yeah. And and so we're starting from scratch. So if you join our TikTok challenge, you're going to come with us. So you'll probably end up having more followers than us in the first couple of weeks. But we want to start it to say, okay, anyone can do this, follow along and do the same thing as we do every single day. So today is day 1. You're not going to miss anything. You can join us, and they can go to, you're going to put the link.
Yes. themastermind.city/TikTok challenge.
There you go. So
go to that.
If you're listening,
still sign up.
If you're listening, you can go, and you can join and watch the replays anytime. So if you're not ready today, don't worry. You can start next week. Exactly.
All right. Well, have a good Wednesday, and we will see you next week.
May the force be with you. Thanks for joining us in the city.
If you're ready to make a lasting impression on a global scale, you can learn more at joingia.com. That's joingia.com.
So go there now, because the world is waiting for you.